Everything changed in a single night. Her ordinary life, filled with predictable days and familiar faces, suddenly shattered like sea foam at sunrise. Who could have imagined that an innocent vacation with her friends would turn into secret kisses under the moon, panic from being seen, and a painful choice between duty and her own happiness? But before you get comfortable, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. And let me know in the comments where you are watching from and what time it is for you right now. I'm always curious to see who's joined us. Now settle in and get cozy. Let's begin. The sun beat down on the endless coastline, sparkling across the crests of turquoise waves. The warm sand beneath Madison's bare feet seemed to vibrate with the thrill of escape, a world away from her routine life. It was the first morning of their week-long getaway, a girls' trip they had dreamed about for years. Madison, Olivia, and Jessica walked together towards the water, laughing as the sea breeze played with their hair and lifted the edges of their summer dresses. Madison was the tallest among them, willowy and elegant, her body shaped by years of yoga. Her long, pale blonde hair caught the sun in 1,000 reflections, and her eyes, the color of the Atlantic on a clear day, sparkled with quiet curiosity. Today, she wore a flowing floral sundress in gentle pinks and creams, the soft fabric dancing around her thighs. Beneath it, her delicate lace lingerie matched her dress, powder blue, hugging her curves, accentuating her slim waist and the graceful slope of her third-size bust. Her hips were firm, her figure sculpted, and when she laughed, a dimple appeared on her left cheek. Next to her, Olivia was petite and athletic, her tanned skin glowing against the neon yellow of her sporty two-piece swimsuit. Her dark brown hair was cropped short, framing a face that seemed permanently animated by laughter. Her breasts were small, but perfectly shaped for her build, and her hips curved with subtle strength. She tossed on denim shorts and a cropped white tank top, showing off her toned stomach and a tiny gold navel ring that gleamed in the sun. Jessica, in contrast, was all soft lines and dramatic contrasts. A striking redhead with a wild mane of curls and emerald green eyes. She wore a form-fitting turquoise dress with thin straps, hugging her full figure and accentuating her generous fourth-sized chest and shapely hips. Underneath, she wore black lace lingerie that both supported and celebrated her curves. There was something almost hypnotic about the way she carried herself, as if she moved to a rhythm only she could hear. They were a vision, the three of them, laughing and alive in the sun, turning heads as they strolled past the pool and down to the private beach. It was here, amidst the chaos of towels and surfboards, that they first saw him. He stood by the rental hut, talking with a group of tourists, clipboard in hand. Even from a distance, Evan was impossible to miss. Tall, broad-shouldered, with skin bronzed from days spent in the sun and arms marked by sinewy muscle. His hair was dark, kept short but tousled, as though he'd just surfaced from the water. He wore simple navy swim trunks, a white tank top clinging to his chest, and beneath it, the lines of his body were unmistakable. His eyes were strikingly blue, set in a face that could only be described as both charming and confident. When he smiled, which seemed often, his entire face lit up. Madison felt the flutter even before she realized she was staring. Jessica nudged her playfully. "See something you like?" Madison colored slightly, but didn't look away. "Maybe I do," she replied, only half joking. Olivia rolled her eyes but grinned. "Let's at least say hello. Isn't that why we're here?" They approached the rental hut, their laughter buoyant, their energy infectious. Evan looked up, and for a heartbeat, his eyes locked with Madison's. The moment was brief, but something unspoken passed between them. A glimmer of possibility. "Ladies, welcome." Evan's voice was warm, his accent distinctly American, but softened by years of traveling. "First day at the resort?" Olivia, ever the bold one, stepped forward. "First day, and we're looking for adventure." He gave a mock bow. "Then you've come to the right place. I'm Evan, diving instructor, surf coach, and unofficial guide to all things fun." Jessica tilted her head. "You teach diving? I've always wanted to try." "Then you'll have to sign up for one of my lessons," Evan said, eyes twinkling. He glanced at Madison again, a flash of something playful and inviting. "You'll be in very good hands, I promise." They laughed, filled out the forms for a diving lesson the next morning, and strolled back to their chairs, already buzzing with the sense that the trip had truly begun. The rest of the afternoon passed in a sun-drenched blur, swimming, sipping cold drinks, sharing stories. Madison found herself glancing back at the hut more than once, her thoughts straying to Evan's smile. As the day faded, the girls retreated to their suite to get ready for dinner. Inside the suite, the air was filled with the sound of running water and the scent of coconut body lotion. Madison changed out of her damp sundress, slipping into a fitted coral wrap dress that hugged her curves just right. She smoothed her hair, checked her makeup, and reached for the delicate blue lingerie again. She wanted to feel special, even if she was the only one who knew. Olivia picked a breezy white romper, accentuating her sun-kissed skin, while Jessica chose a dramatic green jumpsuit that left her back bare. They posed in the mirror, laughing and teasing one another, feeling young and beautiful and utterly free. That night at the open-air bar, the music was soft and the air tinged with salt. Evan was there, sipping a beer, chatting with other guests. When he saw the three friends, he raised his glass in greeting. They joined him, and the conversation flowed as easily as the drinks. Evan was charming, attentive, quick-witted, yet Madison noticed how often his gaze lingered on her lips, how he leaned just a little closer when she spoke. She felt a current of anticipation building between them, subtle but electric. Later, in the quiet of her room, Madison lay in bed, listening to the distant sound of the waves. Her skin tingled with the memory of Evan's voice, his eyes. She thought about tomorrow's lesson, about the way her heart had raced when he smiled at her. She wondered what the next day would bring. And as she drifted into sleep, the promise of adventure shimmered just beyond her dreams. The morning air was warm and sweet, with the scent of ocean salt and blossoming flowers. Madison awoke before her friends, her mind already spinning with anticipation. Today, she would dive beneath the surface for the first time, with Evan as her guide. She slipped into a white bikini, the top lightly padded, accentuating her natural curves, and the matching bottoms hugging her hips perfectly. Over it, she tossed on a loose-fitting pale blue cover-up and braided her hair to keep it out of her face. Jessica and Olivia joined her in the lounge, both looking fresh and ready for adventure. Olivia wore a bright red one-piece that showed off her toned figure, paired with denim shorts, while Jessica had chosen a purple bikini that contrasted beautifully with her fiery hair, topped with a sheer floral kimono. Together, the three friends made their way to the diving center, hearts racing, energy high. Evan greeted them with his trademark smile, clipboard in hand, sunglasses perched on his head. He wore a sleeveless grey tank top, showing off defined arms and tanned skin, along with black board shorts that ended just above his knees. "Ready for your first dive?" he asked, his gaze lingering a heartbeat longer on Madison. The lesson began with instructions on safety, gear, and breathing. Evan demonstrated each step, patient and attentive. When he helped Madison into her diving vest, his fingers brushed against the bare skin of her shoulders. The touch was brief, but sent a ripple of electricity through her. She could feel his presence close behind, the strength in his hands as he adjusted the straps for a snug fit. Olivia cracked jokes, breaking the tension, and Jessica winked doggedly at Madison. But the connection between Madison and Evan was unmistakable. It was as if the world narrowed to just the two of them, the background fading to nothing but the sound of the surf and their quickening breath. In the shallow water, Evan guided Madison through the basics. He steadied her as she learned to use the mask and regulator, his strong hands supporting her waist. The sensation of being held so securely, so close, was intoxicating. At one point, as Madison floated on the water's surface, Evan's hands found her sides, guiding her gently, his body just behind hers. She felt the firm press of his chest as he adjusted her position, his breath warm on her ear as he spoke quietly. Their skin touched, slick with salt water and sun, sending shivers down her spine. For a fleeting moment, it was as if no one else existed. Just Madison, Evan, the rhythm of the waves, and the quiet promise of something more. The dive itself was a world apart. Fish darted around them, sunlight pierced the turquoise water, and Madison felt weightless, her heart pounding. When she surfaced, Evan was right there, his grin infectious. "You did amazing," he said, his hand finding hers under the water, squeezing just enough to make her cheeks flush. Back on shore, the three friends collapsed on towels. Exhilarated, Olivia couldn't stop talking about the coral, while Jessica teased Madison. "Our instructor has a soft spot for you," she whispered, making Madison blush all over again. The day rolled into afternoon, and after a light lunch, the girls decided to nap before the evening. Madison, however, lingered on the balcony, watching the sea. She heard her phone buzz, a message from Evan. "Meet me by the old pier at sunset. Just you." Her heart leapt. She typed a quick reply, nerves and excitement bubbling inside her. Sunset arrived, painting the sky in gold and peach. Madison dressed with care. A loose, off-shoulder white dress that fluttered in the breeze, the same delicate blue lingerie beneath. Her skin still glowed from the sun and salt, her hair loose and wild. She found Evan waiting at the edge of the pier, hands in pockets, watching the horizon. He smiled when he saw her, and for a moment they just stood, the sound of the waves between them. He reached out, taking her hand, pulling her gently closer. I could not stop thinking about you, he admitted, his voice low. Madison's heart thundered. The wind wrapped around them, and Evan's hand slid to Madison's waist, drawing her in. His lips brushed hers, soft at first, searching, then deepening as she leaned into him. Her arms slid around his neck, their bodies pressed together. The fabric of her dress fluttered, cool air kissing the bare skin of her thighs as Evan's hand found the small of her back. His touch was careful, almost reverent, his fingers tracing the line of her spine, pausing at the clasp of her bra beneath the dress. Madison gasped softly, every nerve alive. They kissed again, slower, exploring. Evan's palm grazed her side, skimming over the fabric to rest just above her hip, then slipping lower, squeezing gently. Their bodies swayed in time with the waves, Madison's breath mingling with his, her heart soaring as she lost herself in the warmth of his embrace. When they finally broke apart, Madison was breathless, cheeks flushed, lips tingling. They talked for a while, their conversation easy, laced with laughter and secrets. Evan told her stories of the ocean, of shipwrecks and hidden coves, his voice drawing her in. When the sky grew darker, they parted reluctantly. Madison walked back along the sand, her body humming with the memory of his touch. She knew something had changed. The line between curiosity and desire had blurred. Back at the suite, Jessica raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. Olivia was already asleep, tired from the day. Madison slipped into bed, her skin still tingling where Evan had held her. Tomorrow, she knew, everything would feel different. Night fell swiftly, painting the resort in shades of indigo and silver. The gentle hush of the ocean blended with distant laughter from beach bonfires. Madison felt electricity in the air, an anticipation that made it impossible to sit still. Jessica and Olivia lounged on the balcony, sipping fruity drinks and retelling moments from the day. Jessica, wrapped in a silken robe over black lace lingerie, her curves just visible in the low light, eyed Madison with mischief. Olivia, still radiant after a hot shower, wore a cotton crop top and loose shorts, her tanned legs stretched across a chair. Madison tried to focus on their chatter, but her mind wandered. Every few moments she glanced at her phone, waiting for Evan's promised message. When it came, a simple, "Meet me by the dunes," her pulse quickened. She excused herself, feigning fatigue, and slipped into a midnight blue sundress, its neckline loose and feminine. Underneath, her powder blue lingerie hugged her body, making her feel both exposed and empowered. The sand was cool beneath her feet as she hurried down the moonlit path, heart pounding. Evan was waiting, leaning against a palm, dressed simply in a grey t-shirt and swim shorts. The moon cast silver across his strong arms and face. They walked together in silence at first, the sea a ribbon of white along the shore. Evan's presence was calming, his quiet confidence a balm to Madison's racing thoughts. When they reached a secluded stretch, Evan paused, facing her. "I've been thinking about you all day," he admitted, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. Madison shivered, not from the breeze, but from the anticipation that hung between them. His hand cupped her cheek, thumb tracing her jaw, and he leaned in. Their lips met, warm, searching. a promise. Evan's arms slid around her, pulling her gently against him. Madison melted into his touch, her arms circling his neck. Their bodies pressed together, and she felt the firm line of his muscles, the heat of his skin beneath the fabric. His hands slid down her back, fingers trailing over the delicate straps of her lingerie, then lower, tracing the curve of her waist and hips. He kissed her deeper, and Madison surrendered, her body humming with excitement and a hint of nervousness. His touch was careful, never rushing, always gentle. He explored her with reverence, lips moving down to her collarbone, his hands mapping the lines of her body. For a few perfect moments, nothing else existed but the sound of the surf, the moonlight on their skin, and the delicious rush of being wanted, truly wanted by someone new. Their kisses slowed, turning to quiet laughter and whispered confessions. Madison felt lighter than she had in years. Suddenly, a sharp beam of light swept across the dunes. Voices echoed. A security guard and a hotel worker, making their rounds. Madison and Evan froze, caught in the open. Panic gripped her. Evan grabbed her hand, pulling her into the shadow of a low palm bush. Madison's heart raced as they crouched together, barely daring to breathe. The security guard's flashlight hovered, slicing the darkness. For one terrifying second, Madison was sure they'd be seen. Her dress rumpled, her cheeks flushed. Evan so close, she could feel his heartbeat. But the guards passed by, their laughter fading into the distance. Relief crashed over Madison, but her nerves were rattled. Evan squeezed her hand. "Are you all right?" She nodded, trying to calm her breath. That was close. They emerged from hiding, clothes dusty but spirits high. Evan brushed sand from Madison's shoulders, the touch suddenly intimate in the aftermath of their near miss. Their eyes met, and for a moment, they burst into giggles, the danger already fading into something they would laugh about later. As they walked back along the beach, Evan took her hand, lacing their fingers. "I do not want this to be just a holiday thing," he said quietly. The admission sent a jolt through Madison's chest. Back in her suite, Madison found Olivia asleep, her chest rising and falling peacefully. Jessica was awake, waiting. "Where were you?" Jessica whispered, eyes searching Madison's face. Madison hesitated, then shrugged. "Just needed air." Jessica studied her, then nodded with a knowing smile. "You look happy. I hope it's a good kind of secret." Madison crawled into bed, heart full and mind spinning. She stared at the ceiling, reliving every moment with Evan, the taste of his kiss, the thrill of almost being discovered, the words he'd whispered. But somewhere beneath her happiness, a new anxiety flickered. Things had gone further than she'd expected, and someone had almost caught them. If her friends, or worse, her husband, ever found out, everything could change. The line between fantasy and reality was blurring, and she was walking it with her eyes wide open. Madison drifted off to sleep, clutching her pillow, the moon casting a silver path across the sheets. The night was alive with possibility, but also with the weight of secrets. The adventure was no longer just a fantasy. It had become dangerously real. The next morning dawned hazy and warm, but Madison felt a cool shadow inside her. She woke early, her dreams tangled with flashes of moonlit kisses, the sound of Evan's voice, and the sharp beam of a security guard's flashlight. She slipped quietly from bed, letting Jessica and Olivia sleep, and wrapped herself in a pale silk robe, her hair wild from sleep and sea air. Standing on the balcony, she watched the ocean shimmer under a rising sun. A message appeared on her phone. A simple good morning from Evan, followed by a playful invitation. Meet me at the dive shop before breakfast. Alone. Madison changed into a lemon-yellow sundress with thin straps that left her shoulders bare. Her lingerie was cream-colored lace, delicate and soft, chosen for how it made her feel. Bold, beautiful, and a little dangerous. She pulled her hair into a loose ponytail and stepped quietly into the hallway, heart fluttering. The resort was still sleepy, only a few guests wandering the paths between palm trees. At the dive shop, Evan waited, already prepping gear. He smiled, but Madison sensed the seriousness behind his eyes. Could not sleep, she teased, leaning against the counter. He shook his head, offering a wry smile. I wanted to see you, but there's something I should tell you. He glanced over his shoulder, making sure no one was listening. Before he could continue, the shop manager called him away. Evan gave Madison's hand a quick squeeze. Wait for me, please. She watched him go, curiosity mixing with worry. What was he hiding? Why did he suddenly seem so guarded? While Evan was gone, Madison wandered along the edge of the resort, her mind racing with questions. She spotted Olivia near the pool, chatting with a pair of handsome tourists, her laughter echoing across the water. Jessica lounged under an umbrella, reading, but when she saw Madison, she waved her over. You're up early, Jessica said, studying Madison with a gentle smile. She wore a white bikini under a flowing sheer robe, her fiery hair twisted into a messy bun. Could not sleep, Madison replied honestly. She hesitated, debating whether to confide in her friend, but instead just sat in silence for a moment, both women watching the ocean roll in. Later that morning, Evan found her at the cafe terrace, breathless from running. I'm sorry, he said, voice low. I did not mean to be mysterious. There are things about my life here that are complicated. He glanced around, then leaned closer. I'm leaving soon. My work here is only for the summer. I travel, teach, then move on. I was not expecting to meet someone like you. Madison's stomach twisted with disappointment and confusion. Was she just another summer romance? Or was there something more? Before she could reply, Evan pressed a folded piece of paper into her palm. Read it when you are alone. She tucked it into her bag, her fingers trembling. The day blurred by. The girls took a group yoga class on the beach, Olivia convincing everyone to try impossible poses while laughing so hard she nearly fell into the sand. Madison managed to keep up appearances, joining in their jokes and stories, but her thoughts kept drifting back to Evan and to the note burning a hole in her bag. After sunset, the resort threw a beach party. Strings of lanterns swayed in the warm breeze. Music drifted over the sand, and guests danced barefoot beneath the stars. Madison wore a backless teal dress, the silky fabric clinging to her every curve. Underneath, She chose her favorite cream lace set, hoping for another stolen moment with Evan. As the night deepened, Evan appeared beside her in the crowd. He whispered, "Let's get away." And together they slipped into the shadows beyond the lights. In the quiet darkness, Evan pulled Madison close, his hands finding her waist. Their lips met in a kiss that was hungry and desperate, as if they were trying to hold on to something that could vanish at any moment. Madison's fingers tangled in his hair, her body pressed tightly against his. Evan's hands slid down her back, finding the smooth line of her dress and the soft skin beneath. He traced her spine, pausing at the clasp of her bra, then moved lower, caressing the gentle curve of her hips. Madison gasped softly as he kissed her neck, their bodies swaying together in the sand, hidden from view. Their closeness was electric, full of longing and the bittersweet ache of knowing that time was running out. When they parted, breathless, Evan's eyes were full of questions and secrets. He brushed her cheek with his thumb. "Promise me you'll read my note." She nodded, heart pounding. Back in the suite, Jessica and Olivia were already asleep. Madison crept to the balcony, the sound of the sea her only companion, and opened Evan's note. "I want to tell you everything. Tomorrow. There is something about my life here you should know. If you still want me after, meet me at sunrise on the beach. I will be waiting." The mystery deepened. Madison's mind raced with possibilities. Was he married? Was he in trouble? Did he have to leave because of something he had done? She could hardly sleep, replaying the night's kisses, Evan's troubled eyes, and the cryptic promise of dawn. The adventure had become a riddle, and she was desperate to know the answer. The hours of the night seemed to pass in fragments, bits of restless dreams, the rustle of linen sheets, the low sound of waves rolling onto shore. Madison checked her phone again and again, tracing the words of Evan's note in her mind, until the first pale hint of sunrise filtered through the curtains. She dressed quietly, pulling on a soft white slip dress that hugged her figure and brushing her long blonde hair into gentle waves. Beneath her dress, she wore pale blue lingerie, chosen as much for comfort as for the way it made her feel grounded. The resort was silent as she slipped outside, a hush before the day's first light. The beach was empty, except for Evan, standing alone at the water's edge, his silhouette cut sharply against the awakening sky. He wore faded jeans and a linen shirt, sleeves rolled up, looking both relaxed and restless. As Madison approached, her heart pounded with anticipation and dread. She thought of all the possible secrets he might reveal. But when he turned to face her, his expression was open, vulnerable. "I'm sorry I was so mysterious," Evan began, his voice rough with emotion. "I did not want to ruin what we found together. But you deserve honesty." He looked out at the sea, gathering courage. "I have never stayed in one place for long. My work takes me all over the world. I do not have a family, not in the way most people do. But I am leaving tomorrow. My contract ends and the next group of instructors arrives." Madison felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. So this was always just temporary? Evan shook his head, stepping closer. "It was never meant to be serious. But you changed that. I have never wanted to stay until now." The confession hit her hard. She felt the conflict twist inside her, a fierce longing for him, battling against the life she had built elsewhere. "What am I supposed to do with this?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Before Evan could answer, the sound of footsteps in the sand interrupted them. Madison turned to see Jessica and Olivia hurrying toward her, worry etched on their faces. Jessica was breathless, her red curls tumbling around her face, dressed in a simple sundress over her favorite black lingerie. Olivia wore a fitted tank top and athletic shorts, her gaze sharp. "Madison, we were so worried," Olivia blurted, glancing at Evan with suspicion. "You just disappeared." Jessica stepped forward, taking Madison's hands in hers. "Please, talk to us. You have been acting so different. We know something's going on." Madison hesitated, torn between her friends and her secret. Finally, she drew a deep breath. "I have to tell you the truth." Her voice shook as she explained everything. Her connection with Evan, the late-night meetings, the stolen kisses, the confusion and longing. She left out nothing, meeting her friend's eyes as she spoke. When she finished, Olivia's face was pale with shock. "You have a husband? What about him?" Madison shook her head, tears finally spilling over. "I do not know what I am doing. It just happened. I feel alive for the first time in years." Jessica squeezed her hand. "We all make mistakes, but you need to decide what you want, Madison. Not just for you, but for everyone you care about." The words hung in the morning air, heavy with meaning. Evan stepped closer, his hand finding Madison's. "If you want me, I will stay," he said quietly. "I will change my plans, but you have to be sure." Madison looked from him to her friends, heart pounding. The conflict inside her was almost unbearable. Loyalty and desire, fear and hope, all swirling together. A new voice rang out behind them. One of the resort staff, calling Evan's name. He turned, tension in his posture. "I need to go. Please, Madison, think about what you want. I will wait for you tonight. Meet me on the pier if you choose me. If not, I will leave, and you will never see me again." With that, he walked away, leaving Madison standing between her friends and the rising sun. Jessica and Olivia stayed with her, silent for a long moment. At last, Olivia spoke. "Whatever you decide, we are here for you. But you need to be honest, with yourself and with your husband." The day passed in a blur. Madison wandered the resort in a daze, replaying her conversation with Evan, her confession to her friends. She wanted to talk to her husband, to explain, but the words caught in her throat. She thought of all the ordinary days of her marriage, the comfort and security, and compared them to the wild, impossible rush of being with Evan. That evening, as the sun dipped low and the sky turned violet, Madison knew what she had to do. She called her husband, her voice trembling but steady. She told him about her confusion, about meeting someone who made her feel alive. She did not confess every detail, but she did not lie either. There were tears on both sides of the conversation. He was hurt, but there was a strange kindness in his words too, an understanding that sometimes people changed, even when they did not mean to. When the call ended, Madison stood on her balcony, breathing in the salty air. Jessica and Olivia joined her, wrapping her in a quiet embrace. "Whatever happens, you are not alone," Jessica whispered. Madison nodded, feeling a strange relief, mingled with sadness and hope. She glanced at the pier, where a lone figure waited in the twilight. Night had fallen in shimmering layers of silver and blue, lanterns swaying gently along the wooden pier. Madison stood at the balcony door, the distant shape of Evan waiting by the water, his silhouette outlined by the soft glow. Inside, Jessica and Olivia sat on the bed, watching her with gentle concern. "Whatever happens, you have us," Jessica said quietly, her green eyes full of reassurance. Olivia nodded, hugging her knees to her chest. Madison slipped into her softest blue wrap dress, the fabric clinging to her curves in all the right places. Underneath, she wore her favorite powder blue lingerie, a final act of confidence. Her hair fell loose over her shoulders, glinting in the lamplight. One last look in the mirror, and she felt ready. Not perfect, not certain, but ready. She walked through the resort, her sandals barely making a sound on the path. The air was cool, scented with salt and flowers, the surf a steady rhythm in her chest. Each step felt like walking out of her old life and into something unknown. Evan waited at the far end of the pier, leaning on the railing, looking out to sea. He wore a crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled up, collar open to the breeze. When Madison approached, he turned, his blue eyes filled with hope and fear. She stood beside him, hands gripping the cool wood. For a moment, neither spoke. Then, Madison broke the silence. "I told my husband. I did not hide from him. It hurt, but it felt right, to be honest." Evan reached for her hand, entwining his fingers with hers. Are you choosing me?" Madison looked out at the endless dark water. "I'm choosing myself. I do not know what happens tomorrow. Maybe it is you, maybe it is something else. But I am done pretending to be someone I am not." Evan studied her, his expression changing. Relief, admiration, something close to pride. "That is more than I could have asked for." He pulled her close, his hands gentle at her waist, lips finding hers in a kiss that was sweet and slow, no longer desperate. Their bodies pressed together, fitting perfectly. Madison let herself be held, let her worries fall away. The soft breeze lifted her hair as Evan's hand traced the curve of her back, pulling her gently against him. She felt the steady beat of his heart through his shirt, the warmth of his chest against her cheek. Their kiss deepened, exploring, but always gentle, a promise of tenderness rather than urgency. For a long moment, there was only the hush of the ocean, the soft creak of the pier, and the sensation of being wanted. Not just for a moment, but for who she truly was. When they parted, Madison wiped a tear from her cheek, laughing softly at her own emotion. "I do not regret anything," she said. "I think I will always remember this summer." Evan smiled, brushing her hair away from her face. "Me too." They walked the length of the pier, talking quietly, sharing secrets that had never been told. Childhood dreams, hopes, fears for the future. Madison found herself opening up more than she ever had. letting go of the last shreds of old expectations. With Evan, she could simply exist without shame or pretense. As midnight neared, Evan grew quiet. "I have to leave tomorrow," he said softly. "It is not what I want, but it is my life." Madison nodded. She felt the sting of parting, but not despair. Instead, there was a peace, knowing she had lived this adventure fully, without lies. They shared one last embrace beneath the lanterns, Madison resting her head against Evan's chest, his arms wrapped securely around her. For a while they stood in silence, letting the world turn without them. Their final moments together were full of gentle touches and whispered goodbyes. In the soft light, Madison let herself fall into Evan's embrace one last time, their bodies fitting together as if made for each other. His hands slid over her back, her sides memorizing her shape, while her fingers traced the lines of his jaw. Their kiss was long and lingering, lips meeting again and again, hearts pounding not with anxiety, but with acceptance. They lay together in the warm night, the world reduced to their quiet laughter and the music of the waves. At dawn, Madison walked back to the suite, her sandals dangling from her hand. The sky was streaked with gold, and the air was bright with possibility. Jessica and Olivia were waiting, sleepy but smiling, ready to welcome her home. She curled up beside them on the bed, sharing the whole story. Every secret, every fear, every moment of joy. Her friends listened, arms linked around her, proud of her honesty and her bravery. The next day, Evan was gone. There was no dramatic goodbye, no tears at the airport. Just a note slipped under Madison's door. "Thank you for this summer. You helped me remember who I am. Be brave. Live for yourself." Madison read the note twice, smiling through bittersweet tears. Her heart ached, but it was the ache of growth, of stepping into something new. In the weeks that followed, Madison returned home. Her marriage was not the same, but it was not broken either. She and her husband talked, truly talked, for the first time in years. She was honest about what she wanted, about the parts of herself she had neglected. Some days were hard. Some days were beautiful. Madison laughed with her friends, planned new adventures, and found new reasons to wake up every morning. The memory of Avon, of the summer by the sea, lived in her like sunlight, never heavy, always bright. She was changed, not by a man, but by her own courage to seek happiness. Life went on as it always did, but Madison's heart remained open, her spirit unafraid. And somewhere out there, beneath another sky, she knew Evan was thinking of her too. Thankful for the summer that taught them both the power of honesty, freedom, and the thrill of letting go.